Hello, sports fan. This is Stephen here for Sports Choice Plus. I'm bringing you a very special breakdown. I'm going to be covering it's time for the Cincinnati Bengals to stop being cheap. Before I get right into that, I want to make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel so you get all the updates and all the breakdowns. Without further ado, let's get right into it. The Cincinnati Bengals have a lot on the table for this offseason. You have quarterback Joe Burrow that's been calling for them to re-sign T. Higgins, who is a prized number 2 receiver. Essentially could be a number 1 receiver on a different team. But he wants to get paid. He deserves to get paid. He's been a model citizen. He's taken his time. He's taken his lumps. He took the franchise tag last year. And you also have to consider Jamar Chase's contract. He talked about he wants to get paid. And also Troy Hendrickson on the defensive side that says, trade me or pay me. So essentially we have a lot of different chicken situations where they're staring down the barrel of a gun and they have to make a decision. The big thing is going to be, what will the Bengals do? Will the Bengals prioritize defense? Will they prioritize offense? Or will they do none of those? Essentially, the key, you've seen the offense shift. When they had Joe Mixon, it was a healthy dose of running the football and also passing. But we've seen it go more to a shift of them passing the ball twice as much. When you think about Jamar Chase and what he's been able to do, it's only so much he can hang his hat on if he's the number 1 option. And there's not really anything available after that because either T. Higgins is hurt or T. Higgins is not there. We have to understand that this is a business. And yes, you're going to have to pay players. That's what happens. You make millions of dollars each season. You're going to have to pay somebody. The Bengals seem like they're ignoring the defense and they just throw whatever is out there. They're going to have to vastly improve this defense, whether it be through free agency, whether it be through veteran-friendly deals. And it's also going to have to be aggressiveness through the draft. They're going to have to figure a way of how to keep talent and actually pay talent. Jamar Chase is too good of a receiver to be complaining and unhappy. T. Higgins is the same thing. Having these 2 guys sets up everything else for your offseason. Having these guys paid, signed, and back in training camp, that's another thing. Now, I understand the Troy situation where you may not want to pay him because of his age. I get that. But you could possibly ship him somewhere else. Give him a 1-year extension or something like that and ship him somewhere else for draft picks. Get something back for him. If you're not going to pay him top dollar, if you're not going to give him what he wants, then figure out a way to make a deal to free up salary cap space. One thing's for certain, 2 things for sure, you have a top 10 quarterback. It's not often that you can say those things. So you have to make sure you're maximizing every single year that you have Joe Burrow healthy and playing. He suffered a couple of different injuries last year, but he was able to tough it out and finish the season. So you want to make sure you got your guys in training camp so he's not having to relearn new people, relearning different things, and they can evolve together. With that being said, you have quite a bit of offense that's potentially on the brink. If you don't make Joe Burrow happy, he could possibly request a trade. So you have to understand that time is of the essence right now. You're not going to be able to pay everybody, but pay the people that make sense to pay. Make sure that the guys that you want in training camp are going to be guys that are going to be producing for you down the future, and they're going to be helping you get back to a Super Bowl. When you went to the Super Bowl, you had a 3-headed monster at wide receiver. You had Mixon at the running back position. You had a defense that was steadily competitive. But since then, you've fallen off, and you haven't really replaced a lot of the pieces that you've lost. A lot of the pieces that were really key figures in you actually making it to the Super Bowl. With that being said, Joe Burrow is not going to be able to win every game 40-45 this season. So you're going to have to make changes and adjustments because trying to outshoot everybody in a shootout is not always going to end in your favor, especially if they have a defense that says something about it. Now, the Cincinnati Bengals have to stop being cheap. Somebody has to say it. And if they're not cheap, they're going to continuously be mediocre. They're going to continuously be the last team out the playoffs and don't make it. You're in a division with the Steelers made the playoffs and the Ravens made the playoffs. And a year ago, the Browns made the playoffs. So you have to understand you're going to have to keep up with the change in times. You're going to have to make sure your roster is produced in a way in which that it can make the playoffs. And that starts with producing your offense and having T. Higgins and Jamar Chase there. Now, all you NFL fans chime in. All you Bengals fans chime in. What do you feel like the Bengals should do this offseason? With all the contracts, with all the controversy, what do you feel like they should do? Definitely check out Sports Choice Plus on the biggest platform on YouTube. Make sure you're sharing in your Facebook groups, and we'll see you on the next conversation.